Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. Friedrich Nietzsche. You think you're awake, but you're not. You're dreaming, with your eyes open. And the dream feels so real. You've stopped questioning it. You follow the routine. You speak when expected. You nod when it's polite. You laugh at things you don't find funny. You post, scroll, eat, sleep, and repeat, but deep inside, something trembles. A whisper you ignore, a tension you can't name, a strange sense that none of this feels real, because it isn't. You were born into a story already written. From your earliest breath, you were handed a name, a role, a script. They told you what success means, what failure looks like, what you should want, what you should fear. And so you tried to become that. A version of yourself shaped by others' expectations. Safe, acceptable, predictable. But Nietzsche would call this exactly what it is. A slow, spiritual death. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how, he said. But what if you've never discovered your why? What if the reason your soul feels restless is because it's trapped in a dream you never chose? Nietzsche didn't believe most people live. He believed they exist. They drift through borrowed beliefs, inherited habits, second-hand values, afraid to think for themselves, afraid to feel too deeply, afraid to stand alone. And here's the truth no one dares to say: it's easier to be asleep. It's easier to belong than to awaken, because awakening costs everything. It means killing the false self. It means standing at war with comfort. It means facing the terrifying possibility that the life you're living is not your own. That's why Nietzsche warned, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. The tribe offers belonging, but at a price: yourself. So now the question becomes, are you brave enough to wake up? Not in your bed, but in your mind, in your soul, in the deepest part of you that's been screaming for truth under the noise of the world. Because once you hear that scream, once you feel that fire, you won't be able to go back to sleep. In the next section, we'll peel back the layers, one by one, and expose the mask you've worn for so long you've mistaken it for your face. And Nietzsche's most haunting idea will finally come alive. Become who you are. Stay with me. The real awakening begins now. You've been wearing a mask for so long. You don't even remember your real face. You wake up, put it on, and play the part. The agreeable one. The productive one. The one who's got it together, even when everything inside you is cracking. But behind the mask is a truth you've buried, a truth Nietzsche spent his life trying to unearth. Every deep thinker is more afraid of being understood than of being misunderstood. Because if people ever saw who you really are, what would happen? Would they accept you? Or would they recoil? Would they call you selfish, rebellious, unreasonable? That fear is why you built the mask in the first place. It kept you safe. It helped. You blend in. It protected you from judgment, shame, rejection. But Nietzsche would tell you, that mask is killing you. He believed the most dangerous thing a person can do is become what others need them to be. Because every time you betray yourself to belong, you trade a piece of your soul for approval. And eventually, there's nothing left but a hollow echo of who you might have been. We are unknown to ourselves, Nietzsche wrote. We knowers are strangers to ourselves. And it's true, isn't it? You can go years, decades even, playing a role so convincingly that you forget it's a performance. You surround yourself with people who validate your act. You build a life around what you should want. Career, status, comfort, and it works. Until one day, it doesn't. Until that quiet voice you've been silencing suddenly screams. Until your smile cracks mid-sentence and you wonder, what am I doing? Who am I doing it for? And then, in that moment of crisis, Nietzsche's most terrifying challenge stands in front of you. Become who you are. Not who they told you to be. Not who they applaud. Not the version of yourself that gets the most likes. But the version that terrifies you. The version that doesn't care about fitting in. The version that would rather walk alone in truth than be loved for a lie. Because until you rip the mask off, you will always feel like something's missing, and you're right. Something is. You. In Section 3, we'll explore what happens when the mask finally breaks, when everything you've built begins to crumble, and you're forced to confront the chaos within. Nietzsche called it the gateway to transformation. Most run from it. But you're already standing at the edge. At first, it feels like everything is falling apart. The life you've built starts to feel foreign. The people around you don't understand the shift. Even your own thoughts begin to turn against you. This is the breaking point Nietzsche spoke of, the moment the mask cracks and you're left staring into the mirror with no disguise. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Chaos. That's what awakening feels like. It's not peaceful. It's not pretty. It doesn't arrive with clarity. It erupts with confusion. You start to question everything you once held sacred. Your job, your relationships, your dreams. None of it feels real anymore. The routines you clung to for comfort now feel suffocating. The praise you once craved now feels empty. The future you planned now seems like a cage. This is the cost of waking up. The world you built while asleep can't survive the truth. It wasn't designed for the real you. It was built for the mask, and so, piece by piece, it begins to collapse. You might feel lost, alone, even afraid you've made a mistake. But Nietzsche would tell you, this is the most sacred moment of your life, because in destruction, there is rebirth. In death, there is becoming. In the ruins of your old identity, something untamed begins to stir. Not a version of yourself polished for society, but the raw, wild self you buried beneath years of pretending. This is where most people run back. To the mask. Back to comfort. Back to the lie. Because becoming yourself means being misunderstood. It means walking through the fire without knowing who you'll be on the other side. But Nietzsche knew that fire is necessary. The snake which cannot cast its skin has to die. As well, the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions. They cease to be mind. Let that sink in. If you cannot shed who you were, you will never become who you are meant to be. So let it burn. Let the false beliefs fall. Let the empty roles dissolve. Let the people who loved your mask walk away. Because what's coming is real, and real is worth everything. In the final section, we'll enter the aftermath of this collapse, where Nietzsche's most profound insight reveals itself. Freedom isn't the absence of fear. It's the courage to be yourself anyway. Stay with me. This is where you begin to remember who you were before the world told you to forget. There's a moment, after the collapse, after the silence, after the ashes settle, where something strange happens. You don't return to the way things were. You can't. You've seen too much. You've felt the mask melt, the illusions burn. And now, even if you tried, the old dream no longer fits your skin. This is what Nietzsche meant when he said, and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. You're starting to hear it now, the music. Not the noise of the world, not the expectations of the herd, but something ancient, something raw, something utterly your own. It's not a voice that shouts. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't plead to be understood. It simply exists inside you, waiting to be followed. But here's the truth. That voice isn't easy to obey, because it leads you into dangerous territory. Not dangerous because it's evil. Dangerous because it's yours. And anything that belongs to you fully, anything that is deeply, unmistakably yours, can never be controlled. That's why Nietzsche believed true freedom isn't given. It's earned through fire, through solitude, through rebellion, the solitude that births the self. When you stop performing, people will notice. They might call you arrogant, cold, selfish, detached. Why? Because you've stopped existing for them. You're no longer mirroring their beliefs. You're no longer softening your truth to keep the peace. You've chosen yourself over their comfort, and that makes them uncomfortable. But Nietzsche didn't. Just warn you about this. He welcomed it. He believed that only in solitude can the self be born. Not loneliness, not isolation for its own sake, but the kind of sacred solitude where you hear your soul speak clearly for the first time. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Now you understand. Why? You cannot become yourself among people who need you to stay asleep. You must walk alone, not because you hate others, but because you refuse to betray your becoming. This doesn't mean you reject the world. It means you re-enter it, transformed. You no longer need to belong. You no longer crave permission because now you move from a different place. Not reaction, but intention. Not fear, but alignment. Not emptiness, but authenticity. The burden and beauty of freedom. But let's not romanticize it. Freedom is not warm and comforting. It's heavy. It's terrifying. It strips you of excuses. It demands you stand on your own 2 feet, with no mask to hide behind, no script to follow. When Nietzsche said, "Become who you are," he didn't mean follow your passion. He meant become whole. That includes the dark, the flawed, the broken. It means integrating your shadow, not escaping it. You see, most people chase healing as a way to feel acceptable. They want to erase the mess, polish the cracks, present a version of themselves that's pure, complete, painless, but Nietzsche would call that another lie. He believed real strength comes not from being healed, but from holding your pain with pride. What does not kill me makes me stronger. It's not just a slogan. It's a war cry. Because the wounds you carry, the traumas, the mistakes, the madness you've buried, they're not weaknesses to hide. They're fuel. They're sacred. Scars that mark your becoming. You don't rise despite them. You rise through them. The eternal return. And now we arrive at Nietzsche's most haunting, most demanding idea, the eternal return. Imagine this, that you are condemned to live this exact life again and again and again forever, every moment, every breath, every regret, every joy, every failure. Could you bear it? Would you scream in horror, or would you rise, knowing that this life is not a rehearsal? It is everything. What if some day or night a demon were to steal after you into your loneliest loneliness and say to you, "This life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more"? Would you not throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon who spoke thus? But Nietzsche's question doesn't end there. He asks you this: can you live a life so honest, so wild, so deeply your own, that you would gladly live it again and again and again? That is the measure of a free soul. Not how much it owns, not how admired it is, not how comfortable, but how true it dares to be. Can you love your fate, not just the good, but the brutal? Can you bless the pain, the loss, the solitude, knowing it shaped you? That's what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate, a love so complete it swallows both joy and sorrow with the same fierce acceptance. Becoming the flame, so now the final question. What does it truly mean to become who you are? It means you no longer seek to be liked. You seek to be whole. It means you don't follow the path. You become the path. You're not here to live safely. You're here to live fully, with eyes wide open and heart exposed. You are not a fixed identity. You are a process, a becoming, a flame. And yes, people will fear that. They will try to contain it. They'll tell you to dim it, to quiet down, to go back to sleep. But Nietzsche would look you in the eyes and say, the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. So fly anyway, burn anyway, stand anyway, even if your voice trembles, even if your knees shake, even if no one claps, because this life, this one brief, miraculous life, was never meant to be lived asleep. Your awakening, you've come this far. You've peeled back the layers. You've faced the collapse. You've stood in the fire. And now you're here, with the ashes of your old self at your feet. What comes next is not a return to the dream. It's the beginning of something real. You were not born to follow. You were not born to please. You were not born to sleep through life. You were born to become, and becoming is not a destination. It is a choice you make, every day, every breath, every moment. You will not always feel certain. You will not always feel strong. But if you keep listening to that voice inside, if you keep choosing truth over comfort, if you keep walking, alone when the world tells you to turn back, then Nietzsche's words will not just haunt you. They will guide you. They will strengthen you. They will awaken you. Because once you've truly awakened, you'd rather be feared for your fire than loved for your mask.